Okay guys, today Kate is going to be showing you guys how to make Jack Jack Num Nums, and I'll be sneak peeking our Jack Jack Num Num ears that are coming out this summer. So let's go.
Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Kate.
We're the Beingyes.
Thank you so much for watching me again and joining me as I bake through Disneyland. It's don't come over to my house. I'm not saying that. You can't. Social distancing. It's gonna be really good, you guys. Again, quarantine problems. How to know when a cookie is done. Oh my gosh. Look at how cute are those. Buy the gray stuff, it's delicious.
It's like being on Main Street.
Hi, I'm Kate Balby. Thank you so much for watching and supporting us for our adoption. We are very excited. I'm going to be baking with you today, and we are going to be doing Jack Jack's Num Num cookies from The Incredibles movie 2. And you can find these in the park at California Adventure under the Incredicoaster, and it's basically a huge chocolate chip cookie. So that's what we're going to be baking today. So first of all, we have to brown our butter. If you've never browned your butter before, it's super easy to do, and don't be intimidated by that. So we've got a saucepan right here, small saucepan. We've got our butter, and all I could find was this huge chunk of butter because quarantine, it's been hard to find some stuff. So anyway, we just have our butter measured out. It's going to be 2 sticks or 1 cup of butter, and we'll just put that right in the pan, and then we're going to turn it on low medium heat because we don't want to burn the butter. We're going to be working on that. We're going to let that start to melt. I'm going to turn it up just to like medium right now just to get it started. We'll wait for that to go ahead and start to brown. I have been letting this melt, and it's not browned yet. It still has a bit of ways to go, but just some of my techniques, you can kind of break it down into smaller chunks. That'll help melt it a little bit faster in your pan. Just gotta constantly be stirring it because, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want your butter to burn. I mean, if the heat's too high, it won't burn quickly, but this butter's expensive and you just don't want to waste it ever. Yeah, so you just kind of keep stirring it, and then, like I said, I have it on medium heat. Just watch your own burners. Every temperature is a little different on the stove, and so it's just good to kind of watch it. So now I've pretty much got it all the way melted. We're just gonna let it cook up. It'll change color. You can see that it's this nice yellow buttery color, and when it starts to brown, it'll turn brown, hence the word browning your butter. So this is also how you make clarified butter or ghee. While this is continuing to brown, I can share a little bit about myself and my baking. I always enjoyed kind of experimenting. I remember being a little kid and playing in the backyard and taking plants around and making up things, food out of those things, and I always really enjoyed that. And if I had like a slumber party at a friend's house or something, we'd always want to, I liked coming up with like, okay, so we have a box brownie mix. What else could we add to it to like make it more fun than just plain brownies? And I don't really remember baking a lot like in high school or anything. It was really kind of college and post-college when I would say I got more into baking and enjoying that. For me, it's just a nice way to relax, and for some of you, baking is very stressful, and that's okay, but I'm glad you're here today joining me, learning how to do this. And again, this is just, I'm literally just standing here stirring my butter. It's hard to mess up the dough with chocolate chip cookies. Now, baking them is a whole other story. A lot of people overbake chocolate chip cookies, and that's what makes them crispy, what I consider burnt. So I'll get more into that when they're actually in the oven, and we'll pulling them out and show you kind of how you can tell when chocolate chip cookies are done versus not done. Okay, so now we've got the butter and it's bubbling up. See, that's looking great. That's exactly what it's supposed to be looking like. This is where you'll start to see some color happening. Now you can see that it's changed colors. This beautiful brown color. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the heat and move it over off the hot, and I'm gonna keep stirring. You can see it. We're gonna let this cool. So I'm gonna stick it in the fridge, and it needs to start kind of solidifying again. I put the hot browned butter in a glass jar or glass bowl just to help it cool off faster because the pan that it was in was just really hot. And so I stuck it in here, put it in the fridge for a while, and now it has solidified some more. You can kind of see that it's no longer just a liquid, but it's kind of like a runny, melty butter, and it smells amazing. Now what it looks like. So we're just going to now put it in our bowl and the whole thing. What I'm using is my KitchenAid mixer. I've got on this paddle with it. You can do this by hand if you don't have a mixer. It just might take a little bit longer. It's all in the bowl. I wish I could have you smell what I'm smelling right now. Put that in there, and then we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of plain sugar. I just scoop that right in there. 1/4 cup of just white sugar. We're gonna do 1 whole cup of brown sugar. You want to make sure that it's packed. So anytime a recipe calls for brown sugar, you want to pack it in there. So I just have it in a bag, and I use my hand on the outside of the bag. I put the scoop inside, and I just kind of pack it in there. You can pack it in there with a spoon if you wanted to. So it's all nice and packed in there, and you can kind of see it all packed in there. So that's 1 cup, and then we're gonna also do it with a 1/4 cup. So same thing of brown sugar. Paddle on here, and we're gonna turn it on, and we're gonna whip it until it's nice and light and fluffy. So I'm gonna lock it. I started out on 2 just at the very beginning. We're gonna turn that on. Just gonna scrape down the edges. Go some more. So now you can see it's changed in color. It's this nice, beautiful, light brown color. Nice and creamy and just gorgeous. Now that we've got the butter and the sugar whipped together, really beautiful. I don't even know, that was a couple minutes that I let that whip for. You'll just tell by the color. So like I said, it's just this kind of beautiful, light brown, almost like if you had coffee with a lot of creamer in it. It's kind of like that color. So I just scrape down the sides here to make sure we get it all incorporated. Next, what we're gonna add is we're gonna add 1 whole egg. Crack that right into the bowl. And then we're going to use just an egg yolk. So I'm gonna do it in this bowl that I have here that I'm gonna throw away. So just crack it. So the egg yolk is the yellow part. We're just gonna get rid of the white. You just kind of go back and forth with it like that. You can also just dump the whole egg into a clean bowl and kind of fish out the yolk with your hand, with your clean hands, if that is more comfortable. And then you're just gonna dump the yolk right into the bowl. And then we're gonna turn it back on. And we're gonna mix it up. And then while that's mixing, I'm gonna get my vanilla. We're doing a teaspoon of vanilla. Pure vanilla extract. I'm just gonna dump it right in while it's going. And we're gonna let that mix up. It's gonna be really good, you guys. Okay, so now we do dry ingredients. Now, a lot of recipes, and you can totally do this, will say to mix all of your dry ingredients in a separate bowl and then dump them into your wet ingredients. Chocolate chip cookies, I don't worry about doing that. I haven't noticed a difference. If you have noticed a difference, then by all means do it how you like to do it. I try to use as few dishes as possible when I am baking, and so I just dump it into the wet ingredients, and again, it seems to be fine. But I also have a mixer, so I'm not doing it by hand. 2 1/4 cups of flour. You can also, if you really want to be better with your flour, you could get a spoon and just scoop your flour into your measuring cup, and you'll get a more accurate amount of flour. That is the proper way to measure your flour, because by scooping it like I'm doing right now, you could sometimes end up with it packed, and then you end up with too much flour or maybe too little flour. It's chocolate chip cookies. I'm not too worried about it. That's why I'm just scooping it right now. But if you want to get a more precise measurement, take a spoon, you just kind of spoon it into your measuring cup, take a knife, level it off with a knife, and then that's a great way to do it. 2 cups, and then a 1/4 cup. A tablespoon of baking soda, teaspoon of baking soda, just a teaspoon. And then we're also going to do a teaspoon of salt. And this might seem like a lot of salt. I think it's gonna make it really yummy though to have that salt with the sugar and the chocolate and all the yummy things. So we've got our wet ingredients, we've got our dry ingredients. We're gonna put this down and we're gonna mix it again. And you wanna make sure that you don't over mix your dough because it will make the cookies more like hard kind of. If you mix your flour too much, it's not a good consistency. So you wanna just get it incorporated. There we go, there we've got the dough. You can kind of see it right here. Ooh, yummy. That looks so good. Okay, so we're gonna throw in the chocolate chips. So for this recipe, Jack Jack's Num Nums, they call for chocolate chunks. So I'm very excited. Now this brand, Enjoy Life, if you are needing to do a dairy-free option, these are a great option. You obviously can't do that with the butter. You would have to use like a melted coconut oil, which you can't brown, so it will change the flavor a little bit. But if you needed to go dairy-free, you can use melted coconut oil. And then these Enjoy Life chocolate chips. I got these for this because this was all they had at the store. Again, quarantine problems. Not that big of a deal though. They still taste delicious. So it calls for a cup of chocolate chunks. And for chocolate chip cookies, I just eyeball it. So you can measure out your chocolate chips if you want to, go for it. Again, I just typically do, it's usually about 2 cups in this size of bag. So I like to do half the bag or more because I kind of like my chocolate chips. So I'm turning that back on. We're mixing in the chocolate chips. I'm gonna add the rest of the bag. So if you want to add the whole bag, if you like it extra chocolate chunky, go for it. So there we go. Our dough is done. What we're gonna do is we are going to scoop it out. Now you can do 2 different things if you want. In the park, you will get it in a, it's about this big, the cookie is about this big, in like a little tin foil, I don't even know what to call it, cup. So I'm going to put these in my muffin tins to bake, but you could just scoop them out with a spoon right onto a baking sheet and bake them that way. One thing we have to do first though is they have to chill in the refrigerator for an hour to, they even say, overnight. So what that does is it gets the butter all hard again, and it's gonna make the cookies really hard. So that way when they're baking in the oven, they don't just go flat. They're gonna keep some of that height and keep some of that wonderful dense, kind of, not dense, but you know, the texture of a really good cookie. So I'm gonna put these in the muffin tins. I'm gonna stick it in our refrigerator, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bake them and pull them out, and we'll see how that looks. I'm going to put them in muffin tins, and I've got my muffin tins lined, and I have a large cookie scoop. You could use a spoon, you don't need one of these. And I apologize if you hear noise in the background. My kids are awake, and so they're watching something while I finish this up. So if you hear them, that's all. That's all it is. I'm just gonna take a scoop, put it in here. That is actually a really large scoop. So all I'm doing is kind of pushing down the dough into the muffin tins. My kids are actually watching Up right now. So it's not Incredibles, but it's still in the Pixar family. Do we have any Up fans out there? I'm just scooping this, kind of pressing it in. This dough is a little bit drier, a little more crumbly than some doughs that I've worked with, and that's okay. When you kind of smush it all together, it sticks together and it'll come together. Which usually the drier the dough, the more fluffy it'll stay. So the wetter the dough, the more flat your cookie's gonna be. So sometimes if you want like a really chewy, what they call chewy cookies that are kind of more flat and thin, then that's great. And then that's what you want. If you want a little bit of a fluffier cookie, then the drier dough is gonna be better. You don't want it too dry because then it's crumbly and falls apart and just not good. Here we go. There are the cookies. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator. I'm gonna chill these for an hour, and then I will stick them in the oven and we'll see how they turn out. I did 2 different types. I put some on a cookie sheet, and I put some in a muffin tin to give it a little bit more like Disneyland in the park. They're a lot smaller just because I didn't want my kids eating these massive cookies. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to know when a cookie is done, because one of my biggest baking pet peeves is when cookies are over-baked and then they end up being dry and not good. So I already baked these, pulled these out of the oven. I thought this would give you a really nice idea of what they look like versus the ones in the muffin tins, but those are gonna come out of the oven soon. So I want to show you kind of what they look like hot out of the oven, and then these have cooled for a little bit, but they kind of still look raw. The one thing that gives a done cookie away is the very edges of a cookie. Right here is where you're gonna be able to tell if a cookie is done or not. You want them to be just a little golden brown on the edges and maybe just a little bit on top. This one has a nice little color to it. Again, you probably can't see in this film, but this one has got a little bit of nice gold brown right here. That's it. If the entire cookie looks like it's baked when it's in the oven, it's over-baked. You waited too long to take it out. Having these right, it still kind of looks raw, but it's not. They're definitely not raw. They're soft for sure, but don't we want soft cookies? So these look amazing. These are very, very hot, but they're just a little golden brown on the top and the edges. And these are thicker because they're muffins, so I had to cook them a little bit longer. For these, I baked them for 9.5 minutes in my oven at 350. Keep in mind though that your oven is gonna bake a little differently. So you do 350, start at 7 minutes for your cookies, and then kind of slowly increase the time if you need to add a minute here, a minute there. Try not to keep your oven open for too long, because for every few seconds that your oven is open, it drops 10 degrees, and then it has to reheat, and it kind of messes with the baking. Muffin tins, it ended up being 12 minutes, the difference there. But these look great. I'm gonna bust into this one. How wonderful and ooey gooey. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh yeah. These are a little extra work because of the browning the butter and chilling it for an hour and all that. These are amazing though. You gotta try it. Highly recommend it. Thanks for watching. Glad you're here. If you're able to donate, we'd love it. Thank you so much. All right, we get to taste test. Here, okay. Here you go, Benny.
Let me get here. My mother good.
Thumbs up or thumbs down? All right, Abby gives it a thumbs up. Landon? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Up, down.
Thumbs up. All right, Benny.
Like
Yes?
it?
Yes, you like it?
Yes.
Or no? Is it yucky?
Yucky. What?
Is it yummy?
Okay, what's to say it's yummy? Yeah. Because he put his finger up like this, so that probably means yes.
Okay, great.
I have a thumbs up.